Hey, 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 scrappy people! Tracy Reed here today, coming at you with this adorable layout using the Cocoa Daisy Paperie collection and this silly, goofy photo of my puppy. And this is actually going to be a really simple layout. Well, I mean, it's simple to put together. What I decided to do was lean heavily into all of the tags that are included in the Paperie collection. And rather than create layers from paper or journal cards, that sort of thing. I'm just going to go all in on the tags and create sort of a fun collage. So I have cut apart this planner paper that was included in the memory keeping classified collection. So it gives me a design that spreads across the whole page and is super fun and is, even though it's colorful, it's going to be a great background for all of these really colorful tags, because even though it's colorful, it's still pretty neutral in design. So it's going to be a good way to feature all of these tags without distracting from them too much. Although I will say that that hello tag that has the same sort of design on it does sort of blend in a little bit, but I'm going to fix it as we start moving on this page. So I'm starting with the largest tags, and then you can see over on the left hand side I also have small tags from the die cuts, and so I'm just kind of putting them where I feel like they're going to work, and I will move them around as I start adding more and more things. And I'm not going to only add tags, but I am going to add a lot of tags. I'm getting rid of all of the tags basically on this layout. And there will be some overlapping. You can see that the photo overlaps the tag in the background, and then the tag in the foreground overlaps the photo, and that's to keep it interesting. Because if everything was perfectly spaced out and there was no overlapping at all, it would just kind of have a lot of lines on the page. And even though I do like the lines on the page, I want them to just not be like this perfect grid. So I'm using some embellishments to overlap some of those spacing lines. So I'm going to use these journal bit stickers. They're like I don't know, like story prompts or little places for you to add notes, but they are great color blocking shapes too. So that's what I'm going to be using them as. Just like I'm using the tags, I'm using these as little bits and pieces for my grid too. So once I start sticking these stickers down, they will come up. They won't be permanent, but they will be hard to move. So I'm sort of committing once I am putting these stickers down, or at least committing to where the stickers are. So I'm being really careful about where they go, trying to make sure that everything is spaced out well before I put them down. All right, so I like that. This is going well, but everything's kind of like, I'm gonna have to start building it before I actually like it, I guess, or commit to it well, because everything is sort of moving around and nothing feels quite right. So I'm going to start putting down all of these tags and the photos and everything to start really committing to where everything's going to go on this page. And I think that that will help me visualize this page a little bit better. So I'm going to start with the photo and I'm going to work my way into the background. So I got this tag going down, and you can see that I put that dark blue journal bit from the sticker sheet where I'm going to put that hello. So that gives me some it brings it up from the background that it matches a little bit and helps to anchor that hello in a way that it needed to be anchored so that it didn't blend into the background. And then I'm going to frame it out with this charmed tag, and that will help too. So now it doesn't look like it's blending in, it looks like it's sitting on top like it should, and that feels much better. Okay, so I'm gonna put this down. Then I'm going to commit to where all of these pieces are going to go, and then I'm going to start building around them with other things as well. I always have a problem getting the backings off of everything. Shouldn't chew your nails, but I do. And so it's always hard for me to peel the backings. Although I always find it harder. Like, I've had like fake nails in my life, and they just make everything harder for me. So I'm not sure even if I had nails, it would be helpful. I think I'm just gonna be on the struggle bus forever. And I always forget that these tags don't have adhesive on the back. They're so thick, I always think that they're supposed to have adhesive on the back, but they do not. So I'm sticking those down with my tape runner. And you can see they take up a really decent portion of the page. I'm actually going to use this one for my actual journaling. I'm going to write directly on it, but I don't need any of the other tags that have journaling spaces for journaling. So I'm kind of contemplating what I'm going to do with all these like white spots that are being created by these tags, because I don't feel like if it was patterned or color blocked or something like that, then they wouldn't feel blank to me. But because there are, especially that one on the right hand side, because there are journaling lines, because they're big white spaces, they do feel like they need to be filled in with something. So I'm sort of contemplating what I want to put on those if I'm not going to journal on them. So now to break up some of these straight lines, I'm going to add in circles and half circles as well. This will create good variation in the shapes that I'm using and make the page more interesting. So you can see just adding that one half circle really made it a little bit more interesting, and so this one doubly makes it more interesting. Plus it says love my fur baby, which is appropriate to the page. And then I'm going to add this one too, which is still like, it still has straight lines, but it also has that sort of faux tear and it curves up, so it adds some interest in that way too. So we're going to add hearts, of course, and that will fill in some of these spaces and again give us another shape to create some variation in the visual. So I'm going to add one. I'm basically just adding them where I feel like there's blank spaces. I wanted to add one over here, but it was blue on blue, so I moved the pink over instead. And then I have some weird spacing still, and so I'm going to add in some stamping. There's an XOXO stamp on the stamp that came with one of the memory keeping collections, I think the Traveler's Notebook one, and so I'm adding those in random places. Again, filling up space, but also making it a little bit more visually interesting. I've been adding lots of stitching lately, hand stitching, because I'm too lazy to get out my sewing machine, but I was doubly too lazy this time, so I'm using some stitching stamps that came from Cocoa Daisy a couple of years ago. They are some of my favorite Cocoa Daisy stamps. I bust them out. Well, I wouldn't say all the time because I haven't busted them out in a while, but I do use them when I want just a little bit of something extra, and I think that they're so fun. So this is a straight line stitch, and I am a messy stitcher at heart, even when I am just stamping my stitching. So I'm going to take the V stamp that is also included on this sheet, and I'm going to add that over some of this straight stitching. Again, visual interest, just a different texture, adding to this page. And then I'm also going to take, there is a knotted like string stamp, and I'm going to add that in a couple places. Sorry, get my knotted hair instead. Oh, you never see the back of your head. Look at that big old gray hair. And lastly, I'm going to add this loved stamp in a few places too. So it says XOXO and loved. And I'm going to add in some of these chipboard pieces. Again, we're overlapping with these to make it more visually interesting and to break that grid. And then the last thing that I'm going to do, I need to move this a little crooked. If I'm going to have a whole layout of straight lines, I need to make sure all the lines are straight, and that one was just too crooked for my liking. Okay, so the last thing that I'm going to do here is I'm going to add in some of the rub-on paint splotches. I'm going to put one here, and I'm going to take the little part that I cut off, and I'm going to put it on the other side, and that adds just a little bit more of that paint texture from the background and covered up all of that white space on that tag that I didn't want to journal on, and I'm going to call it good. So if you enjoyed this video, I'd love it if you give it a thumbs up. If you're new here, go ahead and subscribe. I would love to have you. If you don't already, you can follow me over on Instagram. I'm at Tracy M. Reed. There is a link to the Cocoa Daisy Paperie collection in the description box below, and I will see you next time. Thank you.